We good? We live? All right, peace and blessings, and welcome to the Holy Day. So today's lesson obviously is going to be based on the Holy Day, and the Holy Day that we're here for is called the Feast of First Fruits. It's also called the Feast of Weeks, and because you number 7 Sabbaths after the Passover, and then you add one day, which means on the Sunday, since it's after Sabbath. That's also called the Day of Pentecost. So what is first fruits about? What is that about? So obviously, when you hear first fruits, the first thing you hear is first, right? First is number one, right? So it's about giving God your best, bringing God your best. That's what it's about. So whenever you have a field with all types of fruits, vegetables, whatever in it, when that came time for the harvest, you would take the first of that and bring it to the priest. And he would take it and wave it before the Most High. It's called a wave offering. And that was the first fruits. And you would keep what was left. So the reason this is important is because the first fruits belong to God. That's his. That's your way of giving him his. Like, you got some people that's going to say, well, I do that with tithing. Tithes is not the same thing as first fruits. So that's why when you're talking about first fruits, you got to separate it from everything and do it the way the Bible is saying. So we're going to get a quick example, though. Let's get Exodus 22 and 29. No, I'm tripping. Judges 5 and 11, my bad. Judges 5 and 11. All right. It says, they that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. So when it says those are they that are delivered, remember, we were delivered in Passover when you're talking about Egypt, right? So after that deliverance, the next holy day after Passover and unleavened bread is what? First fruits. So he's saying those people that are delivered, and even in nowadays, any time you in a situation and you overcome that, that's deliverance. So when you are delivered, he wants you to continue to rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord. And the holy days are a part of the righteous acts. So when it says rehearse, we know that just means to do it over and over, right? So let's continue. Let's get Exodus 22 and 29. Exodus chapter 22, verse 29. All right. It says, thou shalt not delay to offer the first of thy ripe fruits. So he said, don't delay, don't be late. As soon as y'all see them first fruits come up, that's mine. Give me that, which was taking it to the priest. And that was a part of the wave offering, right? But check out what it say next, because in today's time, or modern Christianity, as some call it, people are a lot judgmental when it comes to things that are actually okay with God. So I'm gonna read it again and pay attention to the next part. He excited. So it says, thou shalt not delay to offer the first of thy ripe fruits and of thy liquors. Wait a minute. You were supposed to bring the priest the first fruits and the liquor? Yes, liquor, alcohol, whatever you want to call it, it's okay. That's what it says, right? But see, the problem is a lot of times we get excited about what man say and not what God said. This is what God has commanded Moses to tell the people. Look, bring me the first fruits of the first fruits of the harvest and of your liquors. And then it says, the firstborn of thy sons shall thou give unto me. Now he's not talking about sacrificing when I say that facial like no. Your firstborn son or your oldest son or whatever son is the son of the promise was dedicated to the Most High. He didn't have the option to go and do everything else like everybody else. He was dedicated to the Most High. All that went together. People see first fruits, they see the sons, but they leave out the liquors. Now, in another lesson, we can go all into liquor, wine. I can do all of that, but we're not going to do it today. But see, we got to understand these holy days were a celebration, right? And when you celebrate, what did Israel do? We like to party, right? We want to turn up. We want bass. We want the music loud. We want to drink and have a good time. But some people would say, well, look, you know what? Well, we shouldn't do that. Why shouldn't we? We shouldn't do it because of what you said, or we shouldn't do it because of what God said. So that is a part of the holy day. Now, let me continue. Let's get Genesis 4 and 2. We're going to get an example of not giving God your best. Genesis chapter 4, verse 2. All right, it says, and she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. So obviously we're talking about Cain and Abel, right? One had sheep, one dealt with the ground and the harvest. So it says, and in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground and offered unto the Lord. So he brought first fruit. So he brought an offering to God, right? And Abel, it says, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect to Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. Now, we're not here to talk about Cain and Abel. That's for another time. I just wanted to show you that from the very beginning in Genesis, you can see people bringing the firstlings of their flock, which was a part of the first fruit, and people bringing the fruit of the ground. This was something that was in play way before Moses came and told the people. Let's continue. Let's get Leviticus 23 and 14. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 14. Now, all these are different feast days in this chapter. We're just focusing on one particular one. Yeah, he excited about it. It says, and ye shall eat neither bread nor parched corn nor green ears until the selfsame day that you have brought an offering unto your God. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Then it says, and ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath. So when it says count from the morrow after the Sabbath, this was from the previous holy day, which was Passover. So whenever Passover and unleavened bread start, you counted 7 Sabbaths, right? So that's 7 times how many days is in a week? 7, right? So 7 times 7, which is 49, right? 49 days. It says 7 Sabbaths, and then it says from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering. Remember the wave offering, and then it says 7 Sabbaths shall be complete, even unto the morrow after the Sabbath day. What's tomorrow after the Sabbath day? Sunday, right? So you got to have an extra day added to that 49. So then it says, even unto the morrow after the Sabbath, 7 Sabbath shall ye number 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. So just looking at that, we see that's how we got the 50 days. What is 50 known as in the Bible? Pentecost. That's what 50 is. So when it says the day of Pentecost, it's talking about the 50th day, started from the first Sabbath of Passover and unleavened bread. Now today you got a whole denomination called Pentecostal, where they go and speak in tongues based off Acts 2. So obviously you got a whole branch of Christianity called Pentecostal that are completely lost on what Pentecost is even about. That's what it's about right here. If you number 50 days. Let's continue though. Let's continue. Verse 17. It says, you shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2 tin deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto the Lord. And ye shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and 1 young bullock and 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering unto the Lord with their meat offering and their drink offerings, even an offering made by fire of sweet savor unto the Lord. Then ye shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offerings. So this was the sacrificial part of the holy day, which we don't have to do anymore because Christ is the sacrifice. So because he became that lamb, he died in the place of all these different offerings that we had to make. So what we're here to do is celebrate being what first fruits is about, which we get ready to get a little bit deeper into it. And we're also here to excuse me, continue to rehearse the righteous acts, because this is something he said continue to do. And even when he returns, it says we still gonna be doing the holy days. We just don't have to worry about the sacrifice. Verse 20. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before the Lord with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy unto the Lord for the priest. And ye shall proclaim on the selfsame day that it may be an holy convocation unto you. Ye shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. So he said, listen, don't work on this day. Treat it like a Sabbath. Excuse me. Treat it like a Sabbath. And this is a holy convocation, which is another thing that you do on the Sabbath. So what's a holy convocation? That's when everybody comes together, like what they call church. They just call it holy because of what it's about, obviously, and keeping it holy because it's a Sabbath. It's considered a Sabbath day. So we're going to continue. Let's get Exodus 34 and 22. Exodus 34 and 22. It says, and thou shalt observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. Thrice, which is 3 times, in a year shall all your men, children appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. So y'all see that, right? One more. It says, for I will cast out the nations before thee, and enlarge thy borders. Neither shall any man desire thy land when thou shalt go up to appear before the Lord thy God 3 times in a year. So that was when they came into Israel. He was letting them know, listen, when you get here, everything gonna be good. I'm gonna take care of you. But it's 3 times a year that I need y'all to appear before me. And this is one of the times, the Feast of First Fruits. But notice it was also called the Feast of Weeks. Why was it called the Feast of Weeks? Because you had a certain amount of weeks to count the days up, right? All right, so let's get Deuteronomy 16 and 8. Deuteronomy 16 and 8. All right. It says, 6 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord thy God. Thou shalt do no work therein. So what was that? That was the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? Right after that is where we're at today, the Feast of Weeks, also known as the Day of Pentecost, also known as the Feast of First Fruits. So right after that, it says 7 weeks. I said, 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number 7 weeks from such a time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. And thou shalt keep the Feast of Weeks unto the Lord thy God, with a tribute of a freewill offering of thine hand, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God according as the Lord thy God has blessed thee. Y'all see that? So according to whatever God gave you, you were supposed to give back, basically. Let me go ahead. What was that? 10. Let me pick up. I didn't 11 yet. All right. So then it says, and thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou and thy son and thy daughter and thy manservant and thy maidservant and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are among you, in the place which the Lord thy God has chosen to place his name there. And thou shalt remember that thou was a bondman in Egypt, and thou shalt learn to do the statutes. Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days after that thou hast gathered in the corn and thy wine. So that'll be the next one that's coming up. So he's telling you these 3 because these are the 3 feasts that was mandatory to keep. But notice it say rejoice. Now, a lot of times when we go to church today, We don't be rejoicing. I know when I used to go to church, I used to sit in the back and the front and fall asleep. It was boring. It was not made where it was something to rejoice about, because we wasn't talking about things to rejoice about. And I'm not saying it's to put church down. I'm just saying, like, it just in general, these things are supposed to be something that you're supposed to rejoice about if you understand what's going on and what's about to happen. If you're paying attention to what's going on in the news today, you see certain countries coming together, which is certain prophecies unfolding, right? So when you see that, you know, okay, so everything he said is going to happen is happening. It's slowly lining itself up for us to be delivered once again. See, that's what these holy days are about. They're about the past, but they also reflect on what's going to happen again, because he said, I call the end from the beginning. So there's going to come a time where we're going to need to have a Passover again. There's going to come a time where it's going to be like first fruits again, tabernacles again, all these different things, atonement again. So whenever you rejoice, you're supposed to enjoy yourself. When we enjoy ourselves in carry time, people kind of look down, turn the music down. Y'all don't need to smoke that. Y'all don't need to drink that. But guess what? They can't go and show you in God's laws and commandments that you don't need to do that. That's a part of you rejoicing. You're rejoicing. Hey, have a good time because you are happy about something. Now, at this point in time where we're at today, what is it that we're happy about? All of us just got passed over when it came to the people that died from it, right? Because we're still here. All of us are getting passed over from different plagues and different things that's going on, but that's on a small scale. It's going to happen again on a larger scale. All right, I'm going to drop down to verse 16. It says, 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread. That's the first one we did, right? Then it says, and in the feast of weeks, which is also called first fruits of Pentecost. That's what we're doing today. Y'all see that? And then it says, and in the feast of tabernacles, that'll be in September. And then it says, they shall not appear before the Lord empty. So when we come to this and do these things, I don't care if all you got is $1 in your pocket and you just want to buy a pack of gum and put it on the table, because some people in here breath be stinking and stuff sometimes. So what? Do what you got to do, because everybody that comes is supposed to have some type of contribution, because the Lord has given you something because you're still here. So if you thought, man, I don't know what to buy, I just want to donate, whatever it is, when these days come around, this is how we're supposed to handle it, the way that we just read. All right, let's get Acts 20 and 16, because I know I'm doing a lot of Old Testament scriptures and people be upset about that. You know, Jesus came in the New Testament and died, so we don't got to do none of the old stuff. That's what they say. No, that's wrong. So I'm going to get some New Testament stuff just to show the same thing. Acts 20 and 16. All right, it says, for Paul, that's one of their favorite ones, right? These people don't know nothing about the Bible. They know about Paul. Let's see what Paul had going on. It said, for Paul had determined to set by Ephesus because he would not spend time in Asia. For hasty, so he was in a hurry, right? It says, if it were possible for him to be at Jerusalem the day of Pentecost. So Paul in the New Testament, this is Acts, this is after Christ died and was resurrected into the heavens, right? Paul was still in a hurry, like, look, let me hurry up and get back, because I got to celebrate what? The day of Pentecost, also known as the Feast of Weeks, also known as First Fruits. Now, why was he doing this? It's because this was the law. This was given to us in Exodus and Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Those are 3 books, 3 of the 5 books of the law. So he was still keeping the law, even though people say we don't keep the law no more. That's very important. Very important. Let's get 1 Corinthians 15, though. 1 Corinthians 15 and 20. All right. It says, but now is Christ risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept. So when they say them that slept, who is that? That's the dead, right? So it's saying he is the first fruits of those that have died already. How is that? Because he rose already. Ain't nobody else rose. So this should let you know the dead are still where they are at. They have not died and went to heaven. Because if you died and went to heaven, that means somebody would have beat Jesus there, right? Because people died way before he came to the scene. And they would have been in heaven waiting on him. But it says he is the firstborn of the dead. He is the first fruits of those that sleep, right? All right, let's continue. It says, for since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all died, even so in Christ shall all be made alive. But every man in his own, Christ the first fruits. Afterward, they that are Christ at his coming. So what is that talking about? When it says they that are Christ at his coming. Whenever he returned, it says the dead in Christ shall rise. Now, if they are in heaven with him, how they going to rise? Where they going to? If heaven is the highest you can get up, and Christ is up there, and grandma and granddaddy that's done passed away is up there too. And he said, well, look, I'm going back down to earth, but the dead going to go up. What's higher than heaven? Where they going to? So that lets you know he is the first fruits because he's the only one that has resurrected into heaven. Everyone else is in a special place. I ain't going to go into that right now. It says, then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father. When he shall have put down a rule and all authority and power. For he must reign till he has put all enemies under his feet. Y'all see that? So, I mean, it's clear that this right here is talking about whenever Christ dies, he's going to come down here. The dead are going to rise. Those that was righteous that was dead, they're going to get their transformation of bodies. Then he's coming on earth and taking over the earth. All the stuff you see today, it would not be here anymore. It'd be different. It says the last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. So, you know, that's later on. I'm going to drop down to verse 50. It says, now this I say, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, neither do corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. What is this talking about, y'all? This is talking about whenever he comes back, that's going to be the seventh trump that you read about in Revelations. And when that trump sound, like, we're going to hear it. This actually happened in the Bible before, where they heard a trump, didn't know where it was coming from. It's going to happen again. And when you hear it, everybody's going to be looking around like, where is that coming from? And at that point, Christ is going to return. The dead are going to rise. And then those that are alive and remain on the earth that are righteous, they're going to go up. And this is where the rapture comes from. When people talk about, we're going to get raptured away and go into heaven. But when we go up into the sky, it's going to be right there where we can see. And then we're coming right back down because we got to go to war with these people. It says, for this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. Because if you're immortal, you can't die anymore. That's what we living for. A lot of people trying to figure out how they could do that now because they already know they ain't going to the kingdom. They already made their mind up they're going to serve Satan. So we want to live forever in the flesh. I don't want to live forever in the flesh. The flesh do too much stuff out of your control. I don't want that. Let's get John 20 and 15. John chapter 20, verse 15. Let's see. My boy singing, ain't it? It says, Jesus said unto her, woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be a gardener, said unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. Now, what are we speaking about? This is when Mary was looking for Christ's body, right? So that she could go and wash him and all of that. But she couldn't find him. Verse 16, Jesus said unto her, she didn't know that she was talking to him the whole time. He said, Mary. She turned herself and said unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Jesus said unto her, touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. So what he was saying, look, don't touch me yet, because I have to go up and be waved for the Father first before you can even touch me, because he is the first fruits. So it's like, okay, when he died and they seen him, okay, we know he died, but he's back. He's right there. He let them know, hey, look, don't touch me. This is why he said, touch me not, because he had to go and ascend up to heaven first and be declared as the first fruits of the dead and wave. That was our wave offering. And then after that, it is what it is. So once again, what we should be able to see if we was paying attention in Passover, he was the lamb, right? Everything that we do or we needed, he has provided. He was the Passover lamb, so you don't got to worry about killing a lamb or having to be killed for your sins. And also, unleavened bread. He represented not having leaven because he was sin free, and leaven represented sin in the unleavened bread, right? Now he's representing the first fruits of the dead. And all these things we're going to follow behind and do the same thing. He just had to do it first. Romans 8 and 11. Romans 8 and 11. All right. It says, but if the spirit of him that raised up Jesus from the dead dwell in you, he that raised up Christ from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his spirit that dwelleth in you. So the same power that he used to do that for Christ is going to do that in the end times. It says, therefore, brethren, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live after the flesh. For if you live after the flesh, ye shall die. You see that? For if you live after the flesh, ye shall die. So if you care about everything in the flesh, you're not going to make it. But if you through the spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, you shall live. So we should be trying to be more spiritual. Now, when you tell people to be spiritual now, they want to go and deal with all kind of other guys and African this and spirituality. Being spiritual is just keeping the law, statutes, and commandments and praying to the Most High. That's it. You don't got to do all this extra stuff and wear chicken feet around your neck, all kind of wild stuff that people be doing. You don't got to do all that. You don't got to chant nothing. You don't got to drink nothing special. All you got to do is keep the law, statutes, and commandments and follow the Most High. That is as spiritual as it is. The Bible says the law is spiritual, right? Verse 14. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. So, if we the sons of God, who's the firstborn son? Christ, right? Now you see why he was the first fruit? Now you see why he got he had to be first, because the firstborn son or the child of the promise had to go first to do everything. This is why Jacob and Esau was at each other, because Esau was born first and had the birthright, and he sold it, remember? And then he got mad after he sold it because he understood what it meant. Let's get James 1 and 18. James 1 and 18. All right. It says, of his own will begot he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. Now, Christ is the first fruits of the Father, but we should be becoming the fruits of Christ. Y'all see that? It says, of his own will, right? Begot he us. So he made us and gave us the word of truth. So because of the truth that he put in us, if we live after that and follow after that, we should be his first fruits. Now, how do we become his first fruits? By following what he said, right? But how do we know that? What happens for us to be first fruits? Well, the dead in Christ, that's the first resurrection. Those that are not righteous have another resurrection. That's the second, right? Also, whenever he returned, there's going to be some people in the wilderness that don't got to deal with the 3.5 years of tribulation, because they are first fruits and they are passed over. And they're in the wilderness dealing with the tabernacles. And because they are in the wilderness keeping the laws and commandments, they will be the first ones that are gathered to go into the kingdom whenever Christ come back. So here's how it worked. Just where we at now, we headed into the last days, all kind of crazy stuff going on. Well, once they do this whole one world order, whatever you want to call it, empire, and take over, then a lot of these countries are going to come together. And they are going to forcibly make people just go and deal with another guy. And those that don't, they're not, well, I'm not going to say they're not going to make it. A lot of them are going to go through so much hardship that it's called the Great Tribulation. Now, in that time, you don't want to deal with that because it's going to be hard to eat. Because to eat, what you got to do? Take the mark, right? Or accept the beast in some form or fashion. So the people that will avoid that or get passed over, just like the last time when the plagues hit and all the crazy stuff, those people would be in the wilderness, right outside of Jerusalem, right outside of the Holy Land, and they would be protected. I don't know if it's Psalms 91. The Psalms 91, look at it. No, son, you ain't get no points in that. Psalms 91, though. Psalms 91, that explains a little bit more about what's going to be going on. You want to be passed over. You want to be in the wilderness for that. You want to be the first fruits. You want to be all of these things. And simply because he did it, you should already expect that you should want to be that. Okay. I'm gonna skip that Acts. I don't want to do that. I'm going to do the Acts 2, though. Acts 2 and 1. I'm going to do that. I got to do that one. But the other one, I skip that one. All right, so I'm doing Acts 2 and 1 through 4. You got that? Okay. All right, so once again, we in the New Testament. It's Paul, it's Acts. It's saying we don't got to do all that stuff no more, but we're finna read that they was doing it. So verse 1 says that when the day of Pentecost was fully come, what's the day of Pentecost? First fruits. What's another name? Feast of Weeks. All right. So they got the holy day right here, even after Jesus died. It says they were all with one accord in one place. Why was they all on one accord and in one place? They was keeping the holy day, right? Don't that make sense? Mm-hmm. It says, and suddenly there came a sound from heaven as a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Now, I already got a video of that. Hold on. I don't know now. I got a video with tongues on it. I think so. I didn't do that yet. We got to do that. I'm going to definitely do that. So this is where they get the whole speaking in tongues from. They call themselves Pentecostal. And so the way this works is they say the Holy Spirit come on you and you just start saying all kind of wild gibberish that nobody can understand, nobody can interpret. And some people are going to make up a lie and say they interpret it. And that's what it's about. And this is what one of the things they use. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to read and see what was going on. Now, if you go to the previous chapter and just read 1 through 8, you will understand what was going on and why they needed tongues when you understand that tongues is languages. But for this purpose, I know I got 1 through 4, but I'm gonna read a little bit more of this. I'm gonna read a little bit more. You ain't gotta add it. It says, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So if you come from out of every nation, that's a whole lot of different languages, right? A lot of different languages. You got to keep that in mind. It says, now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language. So when they were speaking in tongues, they actually understood in their own language what was going on, right? So why do we accept tongues the way that people are doing it today, where nobody understands nothing? It don't make any sense. People be passing out and falling all over the place, acting crazy. But we reading it right here. It said everybody understood in their own language. So right now, if somebody was Japanese and somebody spoke Swahili and somebody spoke Korean and just a bunch of different languages in here, while I'm teaching and talking, if the Spirit fell on me, I would be talking in such a way that that spirit would fall on them and they would understand what I'm saying in their own language. That's all it was. I'm going to read it one more time. It says, now when there were noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language. And they were all amazed, I would be too. And they marveled, saying one to another, behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born? So, and then if you keep reading, it just name a bunch of different places where they was from, but everybody understood each other. So this is like a miracle. Like you bring 10 people in here from 10 different places, 10 languages, and they all understand each other. That's all this was. So the day of Pentecost is not about speaking in tongues. It's the 50th day, numbered for the Feast of Weeks, also known as First Fruits. All right, let's go ahead and get ready to wrap this up. Let's get Leviticus 25 and 8. Leviticus 25 and 8. All right, it says, and thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years. Now, the last time we did 7 Sabbaths of weeks, right? For the day of Pentecost. Now it's saying 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee. 7 times 7 years, and the space of the 7 Sabbaths of 7 years shall be unto you 49 years, because 7 times 7 is 49. Easy, right? Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month in the day of atonement. You see that? So the day of atonement, it says, shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land, and you shall hallow the 50th year, just like the 50th day. This time it says the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man into his possession, and ye shall return every man into his family. So I don't care what you had going on, if you had slaves, whatever was going on, in the year of Jubilee, which was the 50th year, we had to let everybody go free, back to their home. And this was basically like the first fruits or the Feast of Weeks. It was just basically like the Feast of Years. Why is this important? Because when you get to the the last trump, remember it says at that, like the final trump and the twinkling of an eye and all that, who's going to be changed, right? But what else happens? We all go back to our land. So people don't know we still slaves now. You don't think you were slave? We ain't got to get into that. We all slaves. I know people don't want to hear that. I've heard people try to argue it, but your children spend more time with the school system than they do you, because you got to get up and slave. It's clear. But we won't have to worry about that during the year of Jubilee. Now, what this tells us, though, is that whenever Christ returned for the year of Jubilee, it will be a Jubilee year, and it looks to me that it's going to be on or around the Day of Atonement, and everybody will be set free and go back to where they came from. So, I'm going to get Colossians 1 and 18. Don't worry about it. That's all. Yeah, no. Because it's the same thing. It's a tribulation. So, I forgot what. Colossians 1 and 18, right? Mm-hmm. All right. My bad, I'm over here multitasking. All right, Colossians 1 and 18. And he is the head of the body. Talking about Christ, right? It says the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence. So once again, Christ is considered the firstborn of the dead. Why? Because he's representing the first fruits. So with today's lesson, what should we have gotten out of this for the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of First Fruits, and the Day of Atonement? That in the future, this is going to reflect on the time for us to be set free and go back to our home. Also, that it's first fruits, not second or third fruits. So you give your first of everything, which is your best of everything, to the Most High. So That's the mindset that we need to have now going to the next holy day. Hey, everything I do, and when it comes to the Most High, let me give my best to God. Let me not just pray when I'm in trouble, but let me pray when everything is good. Let me not say, thank you, God, or all praises to the Most High whenever he do something that I can recognize. How about just me waking up? I could say he do deserve that, because a lot of people don't wake up every day. So giving the Most High your best and your first is what it's about. That is the lesson. Appreciate y'all time. Y'all can go ahead and get another plate. That's it.